I mean, Leave is also a very aggressive jungle ADC when it comes to the Zeri, so it really just matters on how they go through the early game to reach that late game.
All right, it's going to be the Nami locked in, which will be that Lucian, you'd assume, alongside it from Photic. There's the Yuumi. So kind of just swapping bottom lane, same junglers though. So a bit of a different look in the early phase, and then we go towards the solo lanes once again. I will just quickly mention for Photic, I've been talking a lot about his Zeri. Leave 100% win rate on the Zeri as well. A lot of players 100% win rate on the Zeri actually. But for Photic, he's got 4 wins on the Zeri out of 4, but he's got 4 games on Silver, 1 game on Kato, 1 game on Lucian, all of them losses. So far, NIP in the LPL, they win if they have Zeri, they lose if they do not. So they need to prove that they have other tools in their tool shed this game.
Definitely a very comfort pick for Photic, but we're going to just see the same bans in this top lane, getting rid of all of those aggressive top laners that Invincible might be able to pick out. The Fiora does get banned off, which does make K'Sante have a much better time into this blind matchup, which is still up on the table. But with the Sejuani going towards NIP, I'm just looking for another strong top and mid laner, which are melee and will work very well synergizing with the Sejuani.
I'm curious if EDG will ban away the Jayce here. No, going with the Cassidin once again. So you could go with the Jayce for the top side for Invincible, like we saw in the previous game. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? It looked fantastic in the previous game. Why not? Why on earth not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the Jayce just gets locked in once again. I just think that Sejuani is such a valuable pick when it does come to these two junglers, because we've seen how oppressive she is when it does get to that level 3, and she just consistently invades the enemy jungle. But we need to have a very strong mid jungle duo coming out of EDG this time around, so they can force Xiaolongbao out of their own territory.
Yeah, try and fight for, like you say, the territory. I think that's a great word for it. Just fighting for every inch of ground that they can, not letting NIP aggress quite in the same way. The Akali for FoFo once again, so we very likely see the same solo lane matchups here with the Sylas available. But EDG, do they want to go for the K'Sante? So far, it doesn't feel like it based on the hovers, but they feel undecided.
Oh, the sign does get hovered for the side of EDG. It's going to look like a lock-in for Ala. Like I said, he has been playing a lot of these tank champions in top lane, Sion being one of them. And I think Sion's a really interesting champion when it comes to the current meta, because he can influence the other lanes relatively easily. He just ults down, gets a kill, and he TPs back up by cheating that tempo.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty incredible stuff that we've seen so far. And in major leagues, he's 6-2, Sion specifically. Like, it's been a very, very effective pick in the right situations. We'll see if Invincible is able to punish that. But the Sylas does come through in that mid lane for Pout once again. Definitely feels like a comfort pick for Pout. Then again, he is consistently picking it as an answer into the Akali. So whether it's a comfort or whether it's just the situation he's consistently in, we'll have to find out over the course of... They are meant to have more presence in that bottom side than what we really saw.
Is Jiejie going to try and look for a very sneaky burn of the flash, or is he just placing ward? It's just a little ward just to have that extra lane party for Arlo when it comes to this melee versus range matchup. I do want to see some freaky things from Sion. He has been known as that champion that really just goes into your own jungle and starts smacking you, and you are unable to finish your buff, but that's something that we will have to wait for.
Yeah, we'll see if they're going to be able to find something there. Xiaolongbao getting a little cheeky with it. This is very late to be moving into a lane, but there is a ward, so unfortunately, all they'll find is that ward. Xiaolongbao moves back into his own jungle, but some information given there. EDG will know now that Xiaolongbao is starting on his top side.
I mean, I think people underestimate how much one ward gives in the early game. That does mean Invincible will be hitting level 2 from the first wave straight away. So the trading is going to be extremely dangerous when it comes to this Jayce and Sion matchup. And if Ala doesn't really respect this level 2 spike from Invincible, then his health is going to be an exchange for that. And Xiaolongbao can just continuously look through these lanes and look for those dives.
Bit of a trade 2v2 here. But I feel like this is the story of this matchup, right? You consistently will see the back and forth because both of them have that sustain. So you want to be trying to trade health regularly so you can utilize that part of your toolkit. Zhuo being really aggressive here, and Photic and Zhuo does feel like they're getting the best of some of these trades in the early stages of the laning phase. However, Zeri versus Lucian in the LPL, very one-sided by the looks of things.
Yeah. Leave does hit level 2 straight away, so they will go in for a sneaky trade. But there has been a change up in the second game where the Lucian takes Ignite this time around. I believe last game the Lucian on Leave took Cleanse where they had too much CC to deal with, so he had to take the Cleanse for those team fights. But with the Lucian having Ignite available for this game specifically, that does cut down a lot of the healing.
Yeah, Jiejie is here in the late. Photic just about surviving. Zhuo low on HP as well. Are we going to see a dive here? The wave could be crashed. The Xiaolong Bao, the hero of the moment, moves into the tri-rush, sees Jiejie, forces him away, and might just find himself a 1v1. Stun comes on out, good bit of damage. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
If I was Xiaolong Bao there, I would have just went for the kill, and that's a characteristic of Xiaolong Bao where he isn't willing to flash forward and really get the kill, commit to the execution. But I would have loved to see Xiaolong Bao just ego it and kill Jiejie on the spot.
I'd love to see it as well. And Xiaolong Bao said in that interview, he wants to be the kind of jungler that can solo carry. If you want a solo carry, you've got to be willing to go for those kinds of kills. But obviously feeling like his bottom lane couldn't support, didn't want to overextend and give the enemy Zeri a kill, which that logic I can get behind. Zeri is just too terrifying to let them have a lead for free.
We do have two sneaky wards spotting out both the junglers in this river, but Invincible is so overpushed in this lane, he has no mana. So if Jiejie looks for a kill on this, I believe Invincible might be in danger.
Ala almost getting a kill there himself. Photic low on HP. Leave manages to find himself first blood. Very well played. Bubble dodged by Meiko. Xiaolong Bao gets just a little bit more damage in there. It's a 1-for-1, but Photic not grabbing his kill and Leave getting that 400 gold. It looks pretty good for EDG.
I'm not too sure if it was Leave outplaying the 2v3 or NIP just failing on the execution, because in reality, I don't see how Lucian dies in that 2v3 because you do have all the summoners available. So we'll have another look at what happened in this bottom lane. So Xiaolong Bao does go for a sneaky flank from the tri-bush. The heal does get burnt, and Zeri is out of mana currently, but he uses the bush to perfectly dodge the vision, where Lucian wasn't able to really trade any orders onto the Zeri, and she was able to pick up a very lucky 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, Photic fumbling that one a little bit, it has to be said, but still, great little bit of gold for Leaf. That 400 certainly going to make an impact in this bottom lane. And Xiaolong Bao, we'll see if he continues to focus on the bottom side. We've seen him down towards that bottom lane a lot so far this game. We saw the exact same thing in game number 1 of the series. But Jiejie, we'll see if he's able to impact these lanes. That was the big thing that was lacking for EDG in game number 1. Xiaolong Bao showing no signs of stopping when it comes to just getting into these lanes, having that impact. Knock up on cooldown for Ala. Flash available, used immediately.
The stun
gonna come out there. The shock blast. Everybody charging on in. Surely the thundering blows there.
He's too tanky.
They don't have the damage.
So close yet so far. They were just lacking that tiny bit of damage. The Sion has 2 cloth armor, so Invincible just wasn't able to pump out that last bit of auto attacks and finish Ala off. That does mean the first Drake does go towards EDG because Xiaolong Bao just spent way too much time committing to that top lane kill. Really well played from Ala, and I didn't see EDG having much better early game in this game too.
Yeah, definitely feels better for the start of things. And EDG willing to go for that Drake before the 12-minute mark. So that's going to be a positive. FoFo in the mist here, buying time as the rest of the team moving in. Leave charges over the wall. I was wondering if that was a little too overzealous there, but NIP will just back away. They'll respect it for now.
I mean, respect to Leave trying to gank the mid laner as a Zeri because his wave was pushed in after that dragon being taken for the side of EDG. Just being very proactive, which is something that we don't see from a lot of ADC specifically. It's always the supports and the jungles linking up. But look at the amount of movement that we get to see from NIP. I just love the synergy between Pao and Xiaolong Bao, where they're able to clear the vision together and just stop Jiejie from invading into the enemy jungle.
Yeah. Feels like so far Very even. The fact that the one thing that separates, right, is Zeri having a kill, which is always like, I mean, you were talking about a player getting PTSD. I get PTSD just looking at Zeri's getting ahead. It is something else. But this time, mid lane, very, very even. We talked about wanting to see FoFo being a part of the play as well. He bought a lot of time for his team to move in towards the mid lane there. It does feel like he's on the same page as Jiejie this time around.
We do have a bit of action going on in this mid lane with the heal cut available for FoFo, but I want to highlight we have 3 heal cut items or grievous wound items for the top, mid, and jungle of EDG. That's way too much heal cut for just stopping the Sylas and Sejuani building that Radiant Virtue. I feel like for FoFo, I know you're laning up against the Sylas, but you're solo AP, and once Sejuani gets her items online, you're not going to really be able to do any damage to her. Bit excessive on that.
Yeah, definitely. I will say for Jiejie, at least, like, it builds into a core item that we see most Vi's building, right? So, on his side, I think forgivable, but I agree. FoFo, you have that Oblivion Orb, perhaps not needed, but still wanting to have that healing reduction for lane, I suppose. As Alan moves back on up, getting control of these brushes. Invincible doing a really good job of finding himself an individual lead up in this top side, though. Pretty significantly ahead in CS. About 10 CS lead currently in his favor once he clears up that wave.
Invincible does have the wave at a very good spot, so if Xiaolongbao wants to look for a gank, which does pops the Sion ultimate because he sensed the Sejuani from a mile away. But
Leave actually, yeah, Meiko using the summoner spell there, getting the heal off.
Bit of trading going on in this bottom lane. Jiejie finally hits level 6, so we might see some more action or even tower dives linking up with FoFo this time around. And this Zeri might become a huge problem once again.
Yeah, Leave getting a ton of gold injected into the back pocket there. As Photic and Zhuo have to respect the potential of the dive. Jiejie on their wolves currently. They're going to move back in to try and clear this wave. Should be able to do so. I don't think Xiaolongbao can go for a dive just yet. Jiejie, sorry. But FoFo's moving over. This is what we wanted. FoFo getting involved in the team plays. But Photic and Zhuo, nothing but respect in this bottom side. They back off completely. And in the meantime, Xiaolongbao going for that Herald.
Yeah, I love this trade from NIP, right? Because this Herald, although the Zeri is picking up the tower plays for the side of EDG, this Herald is going to go into one of these solo laners, either the Sylas or Jayce. I would like to see it go towards the Jayce because he is that carry champion in the matchup where he is able to poke down Zeri before she pops off in these teamfights. Although with the Yuumi, I'm sure that Invincible has his ways to find those kills.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, like you already, because of the changes to Herald, you already actually get a bunch of gold going towards the Jayce, right? He gets that 200 for helping take the Herald down in the first place. So already a bit of an injection there. 20 CS lead right now for Invincible. And like you say, if Xiaolongbao does opt to drop that Herald in the top side and get some plates into Invincible's pocket. Invincible did a great job on the damage chart last game. I'd love to see a little bit more of that. I'm well and truly on board the Invincible hype train.
Xiaolongbao will get spotted on a ward in this bottom lane, but I assume we're gonna see a 3v3. And the Vi has that ultimate available, so if Photic isn't careful here...
Yeah, could be in trouble. At least they've got vision. They know what's going on here. Jiejie happy to go one-on-one with Xiaolongbao now, though. Now he's level 6. Now he's got a bit of damage behind him and knew that FoFo was on the way. But looks like Photic will be able to just clear this wave. No pressure of a dive this time around.
I can also see Xiaolongbao trying to drop the Herald for this Lucian just to make up for that little bit of gold, since your Lucian is that carry of the early game, or at least these mid-game skirmishes, where that Gale Force is an important spike for both the Nami Lucian champions as a combo.
Yeah, Pau gonna have to clear this wave, which means presence in that bottom river should belong to EDG. One-on-one in the top side. Ala chaining those stuns together, but can't finish the job. Shock Blast. Ala low on HP. The shield is there, waiting for another Shock Blast as the acceleration gate comes through, but cooldowns aren't there. Invincible can't quite finish the kill. Both so exceptionally low.
Will NIP really take this kill? He doesn't steal it.
Xiaolongbao trying to get in for the Drake, but he's just low on HP. Instead, Jiejie flashes out as Xiaolongbao to go down. Now the fight continues as Leave stacking up, getting these kills for himself. Photic over the walls. Photic FoFo chases it. Pau has to try and turn it around, but FoFo with a double kill already, and Pau has to run for the hills.
FoFo had such an amazing team fight with the Yuumi attached to him. He was just popping off and smacking people left and right, where Lucian wasn't really able to toss out the damage in these team fights. He has that Ignite, which is an oppressive summoner spell, but he has no peel up against this Akali unless the Sejuani and Nami plays for the peel. FoFo is looking so active in this game. I really like this change.
Invincible trying to get damage onto Ala, but FoFo's here. You said you wanted to see more from FoFo. We see a great team fight, and now we see a great gank towards that top side. The knockup is there. FoFo, oh, he can't finish the job. He overestimated his damage. Low on HP, but he will walk away just about 301.
You're telling me he picked up 2 kills from bottom lane, walks top, and picks up a 3rd kill into this Akali's pocket? Well, he's completely online now with the Riftmaker coming in very, very soon when he does reset. They're going to pop the Herald for Pal just to really get to the Sylas and his Roa online, but this Akali is going to be so strong when it comes to these early objective fights. Xiaolongbao does go for the early I guess seal on this dragon, doesn't work out too well, but look at FoFo. He just has his killer instinct and just smiting everyone with his ability, especially with the Yuumi available. Everyone's just melting around him.
That was really nice from EDG as well. Leave using that Ultra Shock Laser to zone the rest of NIP away as Xiaolongbao moves in to try and get the Dragon Steel. So it ends up being Xiaolongbao just pretty much 1v4 at the start of the fight. So really well played by EDG. And this is a bit more like it, right? From such a storied organization that you still have your kind of supportive core in Meiko and Jiejie to lead the team. And now it feels like the laners starting to get on the same page here today. FoFo popping off in the fights. Leave having that Zeri able to really get himself a lead down in the bottom side. It's all looking good for EDG, and on a composition that scales exceptionally.
Yeah, I feel like this is the real FoFo coming out for game 2. This is his potential on the Akali. Although he was silenced in that early game due to the how much gold they were lacking in the early game, I feel like now that EDG has been putting Ala onto these tanks, FoFo really needs to step up as that core element and the damage of EDG's team comp while the Zeri safely scales into that late game.
Yeah, and FoFo, a player that, you know, has had an up and down history, right? You know, back when he was in the LMS, managing to make it to the World Championship, managing to dominate that region. But since coming to the LPL, he had that 1 year where he almost makes it to the World Championship on RA. That was this insane year for him and for Lien, like popping off together, but didn't quite make it there. And ever since, it's not quite felt that he's been as lane dominant, and like we talked about before, often issues of how well he plays with the rest of the team. Does feel like this roster with Jiejie and Meiko as kind of the supportive gang, with Leave, this superstar LDL AD carry coming in, Ala and FoFo, both players with these paths of very high highs and very low lows. Just feel like if they could build that consistency, this can be a roster that EDG can be proud of.
Yeah, EDG is definitely settling on a very stable team identity when it comes to these carries, with Leave and FoFo being the main stars of the team roster. And just with all this gold, especially going towards FoFo on this Akali, if we look at the peel of NIP, if they don't play these fights specifically well to stop and shut down FoFo, this Lucian's in danger.
Yeah, Ala could be the one in danger for the time being, though. There's the knockup going to come through onto Invincible, who's doing his best to look juicy. Half of his HP gone now. There's Zhuo and Xiaolongbao over the wall. There's the CC chain we're looking for. He does not get to move. Zhuo and Xiaolongbao perfectly chaining that CC.
Xiaolongbao switching up his game plan. Bowling wasn't working out. This Lucian Nami getting constantly camped. So why not just play towards Invincible? He's been having amazing games on the Jayce, on the Fiora, and the Jax. So he has the potential to carry, and that's exactly what I want to see from NIP. Switch up the game plan and play towards the second carry of the team.
Oh no, the acceleration gate is not enough for Invincible to escape from this one. Good bit of damage, but Thundering Blow might just save him. flash wasn't available. It is seconds away from coming up. Photic and Xiaolong Bao waiting in the brush, looking for the play. Onto Jiejie. Final chapter, though, will disengage alongside a flash.
That was pretty unfortunate for Invincible. He was just trying to get some greedy gold from that tower, but I believe Xiaolong Bao just left when the kill was executed, trying to set up for that early dragon vision control. But very good pick from Jiejie and Meiko, and I just think this cat is so annoying, enabling every single champion on the side of EDG.
Yeah, can't disagree with you there. As Xiaolong Bao actually got that Gromp? Was that his little pet wolf that got that?
I think so.
I'm not even sure. I think it might have been. But just to get it either way. So nice little thumbs up coming out from him. Some deep vision taken by NIP as EDG get their second Drake on the... Oh no, that's their third Drake, sorry, on the board already. Just 17 minutes in. They're looking towards Seoul at 22 minutes.
And I must highlight that this is a Mountain Soul while you have the Vi and Sion on the side of EDG. This Lucian, if he doesn't pick up any more kills, or he's gonna just keep falling behind compared to the Zeri, then you're gonna have your eyes on Invincible and really have him to poke down the enemy team before they engage a 5v5.
Yeah, I mean, even outside of the Soul, just that one Mountain Drake alone, just so much for Allah because of the amount of armor that he's already collecting. Like, the percentage bonus is just insane. NIP, it does feel like they're starting to lose control of this game, right? Where 4,000 gold down, 3 Drakes down. We need to see something. And again, like the Lucian Nami really not working out against the Zeri.
Yeah, I feel like in these games where you don't have an answer or you won't win lane up against Zeri, because that's your whole purpose as the Lucian and Nami. You are a strong 2v2 bot lane duo, but once you're not picking up those kills early on in the game, getting those items online, then this Zeri is just going to free scale, and that's kind of what we're seeing right here, where even the Yuumi's working towards that Mikhail's, and the Sejuani is not going to have an option to engage onto the Zeri.
Yeah, feels really tough. Feels extremely tough for the side of NIP moving forwards in this game. It's not over just yet, but it is a sizable lead for EDG. And I'm glad we do get to see a good game from EDG. You know, I kind of jokingly mentioned that EDG either 2-0 or get 0-2'd. I was a little nervous that was going to happen again after game number 1, after how dominant NIP looked in game number 1. So I'm glad to see something coming out from EDG. Because like I said, this is a team with a lot of potential. And it breaks my heart to see teams that have this kind of potential flop, but we see it all the time in the LPL.
Yeah, 2 world champions of Meiko and Jiejie, and I think their synergy this game has been picked up from game 1, but we're gonna look for a pick here.
Now, Pout, the target, does get knocked away, but look at this CC chain. I mean, he doesn't get to move. Xiaolong Bao trying to protect his player, and in comes Invincible as well. NIP responding here, but Zhuo taking a lot of damage from Leave, who is stacking up this entire time. Pout low on HP, flashed on by Allah, and the culling gonna do nothing of the sort.
The Lucian was just zoned off that entire play, and the rest of the team, while Invincible, he TP'd into the middle of EDG, and he just had to instantly flash out due to the mispositioning, and it just feels like NIP, no damage, especially with the Sylas going towards this Roa and Zhonya's build. They're getting very, very desperate.
Yes, they are, and here's a flank from FoFo. Zhuo the targets, he flashes over the wall, taken out easily with a perfect execution. And Leave says, we're the better bot lane. Kicks Photic away from the play. Back to the Baron go EDG. 20-minute dominance from these LPL veterans, but a TP coming on through. Xiaolong Bao trying to make his way over, but the Baron's already gone. Pout here, can they find a consolation prize? It doesn't even look like they'll get a kill.
FoFo on this Akali is just way too oppressive in these team fights, especially with the Yuumi attached. Well, he's pretty much invincible, being the joke that the enemy team has the guy named Invincible. He's dying though, and especially with this pick going towards the side of EDG. Although Pout doesn't die instantly, but Xiaolong Bao uses everything to just try and save Pout. And look at this mispositioning from Invincible. He just tries his life to just live in this team fight. Lucian not even being able to just go in and DPS because he's just way too short-ranged up against this Akali, and Sion zoning him off.
FoFo moving down to the bottom side now as Pout in big trouble. I mean, the whole gang's here. The whole squad moving down.
Again.
There's not a lot Pout can do about that one. Overextending in the bottom side. Punished instantly. Drake is up in 50 seconds. That will be sold for EDG. if they even need it. They might end before that, honestly, because they look terrified.
Sion ult.
And they're going for a dive in the mid lane. Look at the health bars drop from NIP. EDG are making a statement.
You have the force from the Sion ultimate, you have the force from the Vi, and FoFo acting like a crazy man with this Yuumi alongside him. They just have so much freedom to opt into the most best fights that they can find into these games. And of course, the Dragon also spawning in 20 seconds. I don't think NIP has another angle to find or come back into this game.
Now, the recall's coming out across the board here for EDG. And they'll make a beeline towards that Drake. You see Ala and Meiko going to stick around just to make sure that, in fact, the recalls got cancelled across the board from EDG. I think realizing that they might have given up too much tempo there and could end up losing their soul. Xiaolongbao, the target already chunked out like crazy from FoFo, and Ala just completely blocking this river choke. NIP realizing it's now or never. They have to fight for this soul, but it's too late. Never is the option that they choose.
Xiaolongbao is just not on his A game for this game too. He's too scared to go in, but in these instances where the Mountain Soul is at stake and you're not going for that flip, I suppose, with the smite available, well, you're just going to have a Mountain Soul on that Sion, on that Vi, and this Sylas and Lucian just isn't going to be able to deal with it. Although Invincible is playing that poke champion, he isn't finding these angles to really poke prior to a team fight being engaged. Because EDG knows this, and that is NIP's win con in these team fights, but EDG just goes for it and pulls the trigger on those ultimates.
Yeah. Feels terrifying in these later fights as well when you don't have the buy on your side and you're up against a Fed Zeri. Like, hang on, NIP, a classic Fnatic death brush. We're going old school here in this one. There's a pick. Can they find more FoFo in the middle of everyone? The lightning glider, oh my days, it's already over. NIP obliterated. They go for a death brush, but it causes their own demise. It's Tokyo Drift in the top side from Ala. Leave trying to clear the wave as Pout desperately huddling underneath the tower.
Munchables, I blinked, and the 3-item Zeri just ease in and kills everyone alongside FoFo's Akali. This is just such a successful game for the side of EDG, where their carries got ahead in that early game through those early game skirmishes, and they close out the game having all the objectives.
Yeah, this was brutal. A 24-minute win here for EDG as the Nexus will fall, and NIP kind of get a taste of their own medicine, it has to be said. I feel like both teams winning in a very similar fashion in their games. What that means for game number 3, I have no idea.
Well, what I'm expecting out of game number 3 is whichever team that doesn't have blue side should be banning the Zeri. We see that every time you have that advantage of having the first pick, the Zeri's just going over. They don't even care that the Vi is available and you can lock it in for the enemy team. Just go for it. We're just going to get ahead in that early game and we're going to dominate you anyways.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the Zeri right now, when you've got Yuumi available as well, just feels like you win the late game and you win the early game, which like you can't afford to go up against that. We've seen it 2 games in this series so far, and clearly both teams have shown us that they can't deal with this series. So perhaps banning is the answer in the end, especially when you've got a few bans coming on through that perhaps could be let through. Things like the Jax, both of the teams play that Jax. If you leave that open, maybe you can grab that yourself and have a carry up in the top side. But regardless, a phenomenal comeback from EDG. I think that's the most important thing. Is we've seen when they've lost before, it was 2-0. I'm glad that despite losing game number 1, this team still staying strong, still working together, actually looking far better in game number 2. So definite positives to take away for EDG looking forward in the split.
I'm glad that they didn't double down with their Team 1 composition, where in reality, the only champions that have been switched around is that bottom lane duo, where the Zeri is going towards EDG this time around. And of course, FoFo, he absolutely popped off in this game where he was able to pick up 3 kills while Pout had 0. He was just able to influence both the bottom side and the top side, where none of the carries were really able to do damage in these team fights.
Yeah, I mean, didn't feel like the carries could get involved at all. Invincible actually managed to do the most damage out of anyone in the whole game, but that's pretty much off the back of you're playing against Sion in lane. Like, you could just wail on it the entire time, and, you know, it's always going to pad the stats at least a little bit. But again,
Yep.
a very fast game. Like when you see a Sion and a Zeri in a draft, you don't typically think of like fast early game snowball into a win, right? You think of late game scaling, but EDG definitely not thinking in the same book.
I mean, if you're getting Dragon Soul at 24 minutes in the game with a scaling bot lane, then something's going terribly wrong in terms of macro. So that should definitely be looked into. I don't think games should have Dragon Souls by the 24-minute mark, especially when we haven't even seen a Baron yet. I mean, I believe we had a Baron last game, but it didn't even matter too much just because of the lead that EDG already generated from previously.
Yeah, we saw Baron used as a bait to then annihilate NIP, so that was the closest we got to a Baron in this one. We're going to jump into a break and we'll find out how game number 3 pivots around the draft here. The draft is going to be everything. Let's find out how